There are children who never really had a childhood, not because they didn't deserve one, but because life didn't wait for them to grow up. While others were learning how to share their toys, they were learning how to share responsibility. While other kids cried to their parents, they learned to stop crying because their parents were already crying. They became small protectors in big worlds. Tiny adults wrapped in fragile bodies. The ones who learned early that safety isn't guaranteed and love isn't always stable. And as they grow, people often mistake their calmness for maturity, their strength for pride, and their independence for peace. But underneath that composure is often a child who never got the chance to rest. Growing up too fast changes how you see the world. It creates a strange kind of wisdom, the kind that comes from pain, not from age. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as parentification, when a child takes on emotional or practical roles that belong to the adults in their life. It can mean caring for younger siblings, managing chaos in the home, or becoming the emotional anchor for a struggling parent. But even when it isn't that extreme, it can simply be a child who becomes the responsible one, the one who doesn't complain, the one who learns to read moods before words, the one who learns that love must be earned through usefulness. And the cost of that early maturity? A lifetime of feeling like you always have to hold things together, like you can't afford to fall apart, even when you're exhausted. Because deep down, that child still believes, if I stop being strong, everything will crumble. This kind of early conditioning doesn't just disappear when you become an adult. It shapes how you love, how you trust, how you rest, and how you see yourself. Let's look deeper into what happens inside the mind of someone who grew up too fast. When you're a child, your brain is wired to depend on others, to feel safe, nurtured, and protected. That's how you learn self-worth, by being cared for. But when that safety net is unstable, your brain rewires itself for survival. Instead of thinking, someone will take care of me, you start thinking, I have to take care of everything. You learn hyper-awareness, constantly scanning your environment, reading expressions, anticipating moods. This survival mode becomes second nature. Psychologists sometimes call this vigilant empathy. It's a skill of reading people deeply, not for connection, but for protection. You watch closely, not because you're curious, but because you're afraid of what might happen if you miss a sign of danger or disappointment. Over time, this child becomes an adult who is calm in crises, good under pressure, and quick to soothe others. People call them reliable, grounded, emotionally intelligent. And yes, they are, but it's a kind of intelligence that came at the expense of innocence. They know how to make others feel safe, but struggle to believe anyone can make them feel safe. Imagine a girl who learned to comfort her mother's tears before she was 10. She grows up thinking love means being useful, that her worth depends on how well she can fix pain. So, in her relationships, she becomes a healer, the listener, the peacekeeper. And when she's finally the one who needs comfort, she feels guilty for asking. Or a boy who grew up in a chaotic home, always stepping between arguments, learning how to calm the storm. He grows up craving peace, but never trusting it, because peace feels unfamiliar, and unfamiliar feels unsafe. These patterns run deep. They can turn into emotional self-neglect, where you know exactly how others feel, but rarely stop to ask how you do, where you apologize for existing too loudly, for needing too much, for not being strong enough all the time. It's a subtle wound, the kind that hides behind smiles and competence. People praise you for your maturity, but they don't realize it was never a choice. And here's the quiet irony. The child who grew up too fast often struggles most with feeling like an adult, because while they carried adult responsibilities early, they never got the foundation of emotional safety that adulthood needs. They became experts at surviving, but beginners at living. If you grew up this way, you probably carry both a gift and a wound. The gift is your empathy, your strength, your awareness. The wound is the exhaustion that comes from always being the strong one. Healing doesn't mean rejecting that part of you. It means understanding where it came from. It means learning that you don't have to earn rest, or love, or care, because you're no longer that child trying to keep the world together. You're an adult now, and you deserve to feel safe enough to let go. Next, we'll explore what happens when that child finally tries to heal, when they begin to slow down, trust others, and rebuild the innocence they once lost. But for now, just pause and breathe. You don't have to carry everything anymore. The child who grew up too fast doesn't always look like they're struggling. Often, they look like they have everything under control. They're the ones you go to for advice. The ones who never seem to fall apart. The ones who always know how to calm the room. But beneath that calm exterior is a silent exhaustion. Because when you learn to hold the world together from a young age, you forget how to let anyone hold you. There's a hidden loneliness in being the mature one. When you're the person everyone leans on, you start to believe that leaning back would make you a burden. You convince yourself that your feelings are less important than the peace you're trying to maintain. So you carry pain quietly and call it independence. You numb your needs and call it strength. You build walls around your softness and call it boundaries. Psychologists sometimes refer to this as emotional minimization. It's when a person learns to shrink their emotions to keep the environment stable. They regulate others before they even process themselves. And while this makes them incredibly self-aware, it also makes it hard for them to feel seen. They may laugh easily, care deeply, and seem emotionally available. But when the spotlight turns toward their own needs, they flinch. They change the subject. They say, "I'm fine," because vulnerability once felt dangerous. Even in adulthood, this can shape how they connect. They attract people who depend on their steadiness. Partners, friends, colleagues who see them as the rock, but rarely as the person who needs a rock of their own. And after a while, that becomes their identity. A caretaker, a problem solver, a quiet healer in a world that rarely asks how they're doing. But every act of overfunctioning hides an unmet need. Every time they fix someone else's pain, there's a small part of them hoping someone will notice theirs. That's the paradox of the child who grew up too fast. They learn to give love freely, but not to receive it without guilt. When you slow down and look closely, you realize that growing up too fast isn't just about lost childhood. It's about lost permission. The permission to be messy, to fail, to cry without explanation, to not know what to do. Children who had to grow up early never got that freedom. They had to earn calm by controlling chaos. They had to earn affection by being good. So even now, they equate rest with weakness and asking for help with shame. But here's the truth. You can't keep saving everyone and still call it love if you're never saving yourself. Healing starts when you stop performing stability and start allowing imperfection. When you learn that being strong doesn't mean being numb, that being dependable doesn't mean being depleted, that being mature doesn't mean you've outgrown comfort. There's a deep beauty in reclaiming softness after years of survival, in saying I'm tired and not apologizing for it, in trusting that the world won't collapse if you finally let your guard down. And maybe that's the real sign of maturity. Not how much you can endure, but how much you can feel without running away from it. Because emotional adulthood isn't built from responsibility. It's built from safety. And safety isn't built from control. It's built from trust. You don't need to keep proving that you're capable. You've done that your whole life. Now it's time to prove that you're human. If you grew up too fast, this isn't a story of loss. It's a story of return. You're not broken. You're simply learning how to exist without a role to play. You're learning how to feel without fear, how to rest without guilt, how to be loved without earning it. And maybe that's the most courageous act of all, to let your guard fall, to let the world see the child you once hid behind maturity. So tonight, if you feel the weight of always being the strong one, try whispering to yourself, I'm safe now. I don't have to carry it all anymore. I can just be, because healing doesn't always look like power. Sometimes it looks like surrender. Sometimes it's sitting quietly, letting the tears you never cried finally find their way out. And if this message reached a part of you that still remembers what it felt like to grow up too soon, don't rush past it. Sit with it. Breathe through it. Let it soften you, because that softness was never a weakness. It was always your truest strength. If this helped you see yourself or someone you love in a new light, subscribe for more reflections like this. And remember, you don't have to keep being the hero in every story. Sometimes the bravest thing you can do is let someone else save you.